Welcome back to the Politbureau. The ANC entered this election arguably its most divided, contradicting itself in the days running up to the poll. Now that the party's won, there's even disagreement about how it emerged victorious.
We know to get 10 million is not a child's play. It is hard work by this leadership, led by President Ramaphosa, who became a game changer in this particular election.
Cyril Ramaphosa is the president of the ANC. There was President Mandela. Unfortunately, I served under President Mandela. There was President Mbeki. I served under Mbeki. There was President Zuma. I served under him. There is Cyril Ramaphosa. He's elected together with me. And the ANC is an organization of a collective. We respect elected leadership. So Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa has my support.
Joining us in studio is the inimitable Aubrey Matshiqi. And Gogo Matshiqi, the ANC is celebrating, but it's continued this slide. Do you think that Cyril Ramaphosa was the magic ingredient that saw it past the 57% mark?
Well, let me put it this way. Since 2004, when the ANC reached its peak at 69.69%, the ANC has lost 12%, which means on average it has lost 4% per election, which means if the trend continues, in about 3 elections, it will fall below 50%, which means what the ANC must do is to analyze what happened since 2004 up to 2019, and then in its strategy, look at not one election, but 2024. Look at the next 3 elections if it doesn't want to lose power. Of course, there's a lot of double speak. When it suits the ANC, its leadership is a collective. When it suits some people in the ANC, you hail the king. And that's what's happening now. People are hailing King Ramaphosa. Now, when former President Thabo Mbeki led the ANC to 69.69%, he was the hero. And then came former President Jacob Zuma in 2009, and under him the ANC fell to about 65%, and he was the villain. And now the ANC has fallen for the first time since 1994 below 60%, and President Ramaphosa has been credited for that. Why? Because his detractors are saying the Ramaphosa factor did not materialize. Hence, the ANC falls below 60%. His disciples, his supporters, will argue it could have been worse.
Aubrey, you're cutting to the heart of the matter now, because there's a National Executive Committee meeting in a couple of hours' time, National Working Committee meeting as well. The ANC needs to decide and premier candidates to take up the provinces where they've won, everywhere except the Western Cape. And now, arguably, the battle's really on for Ramaphosa to enact any of the programs, enact on any of the promises that he made in the election campaign.
Well, we must also bear in mind that the Ramaphosa presidency is the product of the ANC's decline, which means he is still going to preside over a party that is in a state of decline. The Ramaphosa presidency is also the product of a particular narrative of state capture, which asked us to connect the wrong dots. And if we continue connecting the wrong dots, South Africa will still find itself not finding solutions to the deep problems we have in the economy, we have with so-called state capture, and so on, simply because we engage in self-deluding analysis and self-deluding research to prop up our political position. So it seems to me that when we look at the ANC today, that's going to be quite a difficult space over the next few months, particularly in the lead up towards the National General Council, because those who want President Cyril Ramaphosa out of the presidency of the ANC will mobilize. The question is whether they will succeed, of course. But as you get closer to the National General Council, we'll see fierce contestation around the position of the presidency of the ANC.
Well, it's a political balancing act. We'll continue with that prognosis in a moment or so. But a former South African president, ANC Deputy President, Kgalema Motlanthe, he has been very critical of the ANC in the run-up to this election. This is his thoughts on the ANC choosing things like a cabinet and premiers post the election.
In some provinces, they submit 3 names, one who stands out, and 2 who are weak, so that the 2 automatically disqualified.
So, Aubrey, the fact of the matter is the ANC NEC is meeting tomorrow. There is going to be, of course, contestation about the lay of the land post this election. Like you've just explained, Ramaphosa victory, Ramaphosa villainy. How does the president put a cabinet together that balances all of these political standpoints within the NEC itself? I mean, it's not a different party just simply because the election's taken place and they've surged to victory, albeit a weakened one.
Well, the president of the ANC is as strong as the collective. And that's an interesting tension, because he must be able to rise above the collective to give the collective leadership. But at the same time, the collective must be able to give leadership to the president of the ANC. We are sitting with a situation where both the individual, the leader of the party, and the collective are weak. So neither will provide leadership to the other. So you are going to have these interesting perceptions of what happened in this election. Now, you must remember that political reality is created both by the truth and lies. Mm-hmm. So some of the perception of what happened in this election will be based on lies. A little bit of it will be based on the truth. Former President Kgalema Motlanthe is correct. We've been promised a smaller cabinet. I am telling you now, we're going to be sold a dummy. What we're going to see is the number of deputy ministers being whittled down significantly.
But the same amount of ministries.
To give the impression that Ramaphosa is giving us a smaller cabinet. But if we are lucky, we're going to get about 6 cabinet posts less, which is not enough. So he's going to sell us this dummy precisely because there is an extent to which he himself has a patronage pot, which he must use to expand patronage both to his supporters and opponents in the ANC.
So to whittle this down, essentially, Aubrey, I mean, it was Lyndon B. Johnson, the former US president, that said, rather have the person inside the tent peeing out instead of outside the tent peeing in. Are we going to see Nomvula Mokonyane in the cabinet? Are we going to see a return to grace for Malusi Gigaba? Those likes. I mean, how does Cyril Ramaphosa sell a new dawn with a straight face if those return to the executive?
Well, look, I think this idea of a new dawn is exaggerated. In many respects, it's a new yawn. And the ANC carpet is wet with pee, if we must extend that logic. Which means Cyril Ramaphosa knows, his supporters know, there's an extent to which he cannot govern without the consent of his opponents in the ANC. So his main challenge, before we talk about what the post-apartheid state must do, is internal opposition in his own party. If he cannot stabilize the party, he will not be able to stabilize the state. Now, people ask the question, is he the right man for the job? The answer is yes and no. If you are capital, if you are white, if you are big business, if you are an international investor, he's the right man for the job. If you are poor, if you are working class, no, he isn't. He would have made a perfect president after Nelson Mandela because he is more suited to the touchy-feely type of president.
Holding the Rainbow Nation together with sticky tape.
There's no Rainbow Nation to hold on to or to patch together because there's no Rainbow Nation. There's no non-racialism in this country. South Africa still does not belong to all who live in it. South Africa belongs to those who conquered it. That's our reality, and that's the reality that must change.
Aubrey, we thank you for that. Don't go away just yet. Coming up, spinners and spanners, Hladi Motsoneng. More party agents than votes, but he's reckoned for greatness.